Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you guys my spoiler review of WandaVision episode 8. Before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on so you get notified anytime I upload a new video or I go live. Without wasting any more time, let's get right into it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is Agatha's origins. I thought it was super cool. I wasn't expecting to see her origins, to be honest. I actually thought that they were going to kind of just skip over it and we were all going to assume that it was going to be like Salem witch trial stuff related, but I'm glad they went into detail. It was our first look at a horror-esque Marvel Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is going to have the horror theme to it, but it's not going to be jump scares and stuff like that. It's just going to be dark magic and all that kind of stuff. So I think that it's super cool that we finally got our first little taste at it. A lot of it explained, but there's obviously still a bunch of stuff that's unexplained. So moving on from just Agatha in general, flashbacks, that was literally like 90% of the episode was just seeing Wanda's past and how all of this came to be, the whole path to creating Westview as an alternate reality. Because obviously in this episode, Agatha's whole goal is to find out how Wanda created this reality in Westview. And I think it's super cool that the way that they did it was they went back in time. Now, the only thing I couldn't really relate this episode to was Endgame for me personally. So I want to go into detail as to all the places that they went when they time traveled, or not time traveled, but kind of went back and watched Wanda's past. Again, that's something that relates with Endgame. It's just they spent so much time in the longer episode, and Endgame was obviously a really long, and it was much longer movie than all the normal MCU movies, and they spent all the time traveling. Now, when they first did the time travel in this episode, I was like, okay, they're only gonna do like 1 or 2 places. They did like 4 places. So the first place that they went to was Sokovia when the Stark Industries bomb hit Sokovia and it killed her parents. Now, this was a great way, I think, to kind of introduce that origin story that we've never seen before. We only assumed all the things that we saw in this episode, we just assumed happened by connecting different plot points and different scattered pieces of information we had before. None of this was told to us. So was it necessary for Marvel to show all of this? No. But did it clear stuff up? Of course. Anything that Marvel does at this point will clear stuff up. But then again, at the end of the episode, they made us ask so many more questions, and I'm going to get into that later on in the video. But moving on from just Sokovia, I want to bring up the fact that this could lead directly to X-Gene, mutants, all that kind of stuff, because Wanda's hand was being basically like held out, and it felt like she was stopping the bomb from exploding, so she had to have some previous powers. Remember, this is all when she was a kid, so it was before she was exposed to the stone in the Hydra headquarters. And also, moving on, when we get to the Hydra headquarters, we see when they're testing on her with the stone, the 2 experimenters said that this never worked on anyone before. Everyone else died. So there had to be something inside of Wanda that had been activated, or that was being activated as the stone was being exposed to her. And she saw the Scarlet Witch thing in her eyes. If you guys remember, I'll put a picture up on screen right now. But she saw a little Scarlet Witch like figure, I think, in her eyes, or at least the camera saw it. I don't know if she necessarily saw it in her eyes, but the camera saw that. So I think there has to be something in her body that was maybe that she previously had, and I'm assuming it's going to be some sort of radiation from the bomb, and that kind of gave her an X-Gene maybe. Moving on past the Hydra, because I feel like that wasn't anything too crazy. We just got to see her get her power, something that we hadn't seen on screen before. So moving past that, we move on to the Civil War era. Now, this is right after she lost her brother Pietro Maximoff, and Vision is trying to figure out what emotions she's going through. Vision has never experienced any of that stuff, and this is the only Vision character development we get in this episode. We never really saw Vision in this episode until the post-credit scene, and even then that didn't excel. I'm talking about like specifically the Westview Vision. I understand the post-credit scene stuff, but I'm saying the Westview Vision that we saw in the last episode when he left the truck after like talking to Darcy in the truck, we haven't seen him since then. After seeing that Civil War era, which was honestly my favorite out of I think the 4 or 5 that we got to see, just because of the heartfelt emotions between Wanda and Vision trying to understand Wanda not wanting to talk about it, and all that just built up emotion inside of her. You finally get to understand what she was going through because you get to specifically see her emotions. Vision is someone that she can 100% trust, and then she lost him as well in Infinity War. So I feel like it's more character development for Wanda, but honestly I feel like we have enough character development for Wanda. We've seen her storyline excel over the MCU movies and stuff like that. We haven't seen Vision that much, and I'm really disappointed in the fact that we didn't really get to see Vision that much this episode. But again, moving past that, after the Civil War era, she opens up the Sword era, I guess you could call it, which is technically modern day. She went into Sword. She saw Vision's body being dismantled, and this is really heart-wrenching. It was really sad that she had to see that kind of stuff. I thought it was cool the way they put it together, but again, it was really sad. One thing I was really surprised about was that Hayward lied about her stealing Vision's body. So that means Hayward probably wanted something to do with Vision's body, or when they took him apart, he was gonna steal the parts or something like that. Because remember, in one of the previous episodes, Hayward said the security camera footage, she stole Vision's body, but in this episode, we see that she just touched him and then she couldn't feel anything. She's like, I can't feel your body, or I can't feel you anymore. And then she left. And then she went to New Jersey, and then she went specifically into Westview, and then she went to the construction house that Vision bought a home for them to live in and kind of live their future out. She basically like sits down on the house that Vision was gonna build for them. She was on her knees and she kind of like started crying, and she just screamed, and a bunch of stuff came out of her chest. It was like dark magic. I don't know what it was like. It was crazy. Okay, it felt like it, I don't know, the vibe to me was like Nexus vibes. When she was exploding, it wasn't just red like it was in like other movies. Like for example, in Age of Ultron, when she broke down and Pietro died, it was only red. This time it was darker. So I feel like this obviously has something to do with dark magic, and maybe that is why she kind of took over everyone's body. This was probably one of the most significantly added pieces of this episode. We finally got to see the creation of Westview. That's something that we've all been wondering, at least I've been wondering since the beginning of the show. We know that Wanda doesn't know how it became a thing, it just happened. So maybe her emotions were going through like such a rush that she didn't even realize that she created it. Right whenever she first created the reality, and she saw him in black and white, and then she saw herself in like basically modern day, what their house would have looked like, and then everything eventually turns to black and white. So that was the beginning of the hex. So I don't know, it was super interesting. It's also worth mentioning that Wanda created Vision's body. She created a brand new Vision. She didn't take the body and then bring him back to life. She genuinely created the man. Like she created it from her like scream, I guess. Like when she screamed, it was like red and then it turned yellow. So that's super interesting to me. Maybe it had something to do that with like when she was in the Hydra facility, when she like first saw the stone, it was blue, and then it turned yellow when she like looked directly into it. So maybe it was some deep part of her that had basically like a piece of Vision, I guess. Kind of touching on what I said before about Westview current day Vision, we got no story progression for him. We saw 0 screen time for him, as well as Monica and Pietro. Now we did figure out that in this episode that Pietro was 100% fake. She basically just took a body and made him look like Quicksilver. So this might eliminate the theory that he's from the Fox universe, but we don't know for sure, because she could have taken him from a different multiverse, since this universe's Vision was dead in Age of Ultron. Now I'm gonna get into some iffy things about the episode, some things I didn't necessarily like about it. Not to say this is a bad episode, but anyone who watched it can definitely tell it was a filler episode, but it was a good filler. Like many shows can't do fillers right. For example, in season 2 of The Mandalorian, there's a few episodes where they kind of rode off of this frog storyline. It was some random character and they kind of rode off that storyline and then brought the character back in like the last 2 episodes or something. The character has obviously played an important role in the end of The Mandalorian, but in the moment it just felt really bad. But in this show, this filler episode, it seemed like it cleared enough up in the past that it made it slightly worth it, but it was still very, very underwhelming. And I don't know, they have to do so much in the next episode to actually finish off or complete a semi-story. Like it's impossible for them to finish another whole story. Like there's no way that this show is gonna end on a normal show. It's definitely gonna end on a cliffhanger that leads into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. So I know that I'm not really expecting next episode to give us answers, but I am expecting it to close off just a little bit. So my final thoughts on episode 8 of WandaVision. I definitely thought it was a good episode. It was 100% a filler episode. We could all tell that from the beginning. This episode was definitely worth the watch. I did enjoy parts of it, and though it didn't excel on the story, we got more explanations. And honestly, that's what we were all hoping for in the beginning. It's just now that it's like the second to last episode, we kind of expected it to be like an alley-oop to the finale of the show. We expected it to kind of set up the finale, but it did set it up, but not in, I think, a way that any of us expected. And yeah, guys, that's it for this video. Let me know what you thought about WandaVision episode 8 in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.